Hi guys, this is Klazart bringing another audio commentary, and this time I'm commentating on the losers final of Group B of the round of 32 in the Avalon MSL. And again, if you haven't seen the losers match leading up to this involving Bisu and Free, I recommend you watch that first, as this is a follow-up game. We've got and now we're starting up. It looks like we've got Bisu in red at the 3 o'clock position, which means Jangbi is in brown at the 9 o'clock 9 o'clock position. I gotta tell you guys, Protoss versus Protoss is definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, my favorite mirror matchup out of the three. It just tends to produce exciting games with a lot more frequency than the other matchups, simply because there is that element of uncertainty that I feel is more in Protoss versus Protoss play than Zerg versus Zerg. Terran versus Terran, yes, can be uncertain, but Terran versus Terran can also devolve into 50-hour camp fests, which sometimes can be great, but sometimes can be severely tedious. Anyway, this is Bisu versus Jangbi, and what a great matchup we just had in Bisu versus Free, where the Protoss assassin once again managed to deliver the killing blow. And you know, guys, I really love StarCraft because I don't know about you guys, but every time I watch a movie where a villain does something stupid, like in James Bond, where they don't kill him when they can, because if it would be me, the moment I had James Bond in my clutches, I just put a bullet between his eyes. I wouldn't say, "Oh, hello, James Bond. Oh, look, listen to my evil plans. Meet my beautiful assistant who's going to betray me to you." I would just put a bullet in his eyes and be done with it. That would be it. Whereas comic book villains, for some reason, just seem to want to give the heroes another chance. And unfortunately for Free, he seemed to embody that and represent the comic book villain perfectly. Not that I'm implying in any way that Free is any sort of villain, but he really did follow the textbook actions of a comic book villain in that last match, where he completely and utterly underestimated his opponent's determination, strength, and resourcefulness, and he paid the ultimate price for it. And unlike comic book villains, who have a very short time to regret their mistakes, he's going to spend the rest of the MSL season watching the others progress and rueing his error, when he really should have been playing in this match against Jangbi right now, considering he had taken down Bisu's Natural Expo and was an expansion up on the assassin. But in one way, you know, it was kind of sad thinking of Free kind of adopting the role of the comic book villain, and yet in another, it was also exciting, because it made me realize, well, not exciting, I guess, but it kind of made you realize why it's not so unbelievable. People do that in real life, and that's what happens when you're faced with kind of a high-pressure situation. Sometimes you overindulge yourself, or you play it over safe, and StarCraft is not a game where you can really play over safe, unless you're Flash, where you can just macro up to 200 pop and roll your opponent in seconds, but that's Flash. Anyway, Bisu versus Jangbi, both players gone for virtually identical builds. Both players one pylon into gateway, starting up their cybernetics cores. Both players have got their probes in each other's bases and are scouting around. And you know, we talk about StarCraft rivalries. There have been some great StarCraft rivalries in the past. We've got Savior versus Bisu, we have Boxer versus Yellow, and I think Bisu versus Jangbi, we've got Bisu versus Stork, where Bisu defeated Stork in so many finals before Stork finally beat him to take his first Star League title, I believe. And now, finally, we've got a Bisu versus Jangbi rivalry developing. These two guys have been facing against each other so often and so many times in Protoss versus Protoss, and definitely I think that the Bisu versus Jangbi Protoss versus Protoss rivalry is a little bit more charged than Bisu versus Stork, specifically because these two guys have come up against each other in the Intel Classic on so many occasions. Bisu now just got a second Zealot out to just get rid of that probe from his base that was scouting. I think Jangbi has managed to push Bisu's probe out as well, so both players now having secured their territory. And yeah, it's kind of interesting how many rivalries Bisu has been involved in, and I think the reason for that is because he's performed at a consistent level for such a long period of time that as new players begin to emerge, new rivalries begin to form, whereas with other players and other greats, they don't seem to have that long-lasting reign. I think the other factor is that these days the turnover rate is higher as well for professional players at their peak, and so therefore we're seeing a greater number of, I guess, variations in rivalries. Looks like Jangbi's put a second gateway as well as his robotics facility down. Bisu has just stuck stuck with the one gateway, so it'll be interesting to see what sort of strategy Jangbi's going to go for here. He has gone for that extra second gateway. Bisu probably will look to get his natural expo a little bit earlier, and it's going to be down to Bisu now starting up his second gateway. So Bisu a little bit behind, arguably, in that instance where he hasn't yet started. Maybe he's just, again, I could only guess that he's saving up resources to start up that expo, and that's why he was a little bit slower in getting that second gateway up compared to Jangbi. Jangbi perhaps just looking to put a little bit more pressure early on, but Bisu still has neither player still started up their national expos. Both players were just probe scouting around the map, trying to see what the other player might be up to. And Bisu's indeed got that observatory going as well, and it'll be interesting if Jangbi does the same, or if he chooses to put the robotic support bay down first. Remember, he did put that gateway down earlier than Bisu, and so I would expect him to try and put a little bit more pressure early on. But right now, both players seem to be just content to sit in their bases. And observatory going down for Jangbi as well. So Bisu got that observatory out faster. Jangbi obviously, so that was where the minerals went with Bisu's second gateway. It wasn't that he was going for the expansion. I wondered where those resources went. It went on the observatory that he got out first, and obviously that's going to give him a little bit more scouting information. But I think actually I like Jangbi's timing, because Jangbi's going to have a little bit more ground forces because he got his gateway up early, so he's producing from 2 gateways longer than Bisu is, and at the same time he's going to have his observers out probably in time by the time Bisu's observers come out. Robotic support bay going up for Jangbi, and shuttle being produced. He has not gone yet for his national expansion as far as I can tell. Bisu obviously having started his national expansion. I can't tell from just looking at the minimap, but I haven't seen Jangbi start up his natural expansion yet. So we might be seeing Jangbi going for a more aggressive strategy here, and Bisu going for a slightly more defensive. Bisu putting a pylon up at his natural expansion, and Jangbi coming around with a probe to scout. Bisu with perfect position of his dragoons takes the probes out, but I'm sure Jangbi's aware that he started up his national, and Jangbi has not started up his national expo. I can confirm that now for you guys. Obviously going for the robotics support bay, going for the Reaver early, going for the one base build. Bisu taking a little bit of a risk here, obviously leaving himself slightly vulnerable, but I guess he's banking on the fact that he'll have his Reaver out in time to defend. But Jangbi has got that shuttle, so Bisu's going to have to defend at 2 points, both his natural expo and the main, and really it's just going to come down to micro between the two players. Bisu also with a slightly superior ground force, and Bisu has now managed to get that observer in Jangbi's base, and that's critical because Jangbi went for the robotic support, but he did put the observatory down first, but I guess he sent his observer over to Bisu's base because I haven't seen it hovering above his own base, so therefore he hasn't had his observer in place to see Bisu's observer coming in, and Bisu has seen Jangbi's build, and he's now, if he wasn't sure beforehand because he hadn't sent the probe into scout, if he wasn't sure whether Jangbi had gone indeed for the expansion or whether Jangbi had gone for the Reaver, he now knows exactly what's coming his way. Jangbi now with his observer in Bisu's main, and Bisu's got a couple of dragoons positioned. He's got about 3 dragoons in his main, and he's going to need another observer obviously just to catch that. He's also got a shield battery and his Reaver, so his main defenses, and now he's going to try and take that observer down. The observer just manages to escape, so Bisu's primarily defense is focused at his front door. He's got a shield battery, he's got a Reaver, he's got dragoons, but he's also going to have to defend, and what Jangbi's going to try and do is try and pull Bisu's forces away from that natural expo so they can put pressure there at Bisu's front door, and he's obviously got his dragoons positioned for that, and he's going to try and do a 2-pronged attack here. Bisu seems to be reasonably well placed to defend it, again, because he sent that observer in and he knows what Jangbi's coming up with, and Jangbi not yet affecting the drop, still circling around, still trying to find, probing away, trying to find an avenue of attack, not been able to find it thus far, and the longer this goes on, the longer Bisu will be able to build up his military forces and cement his economic advantage. Now Bisu with 2 Reavers out in his natural expo, defending that, and Jangbi has not been able to put any pressure. He's circling around the shuttle. He does have the shuttle, and that is an advantage. Even if he went for the front door, he could potentially use the shuttle, but remember, Bisu does have that shield battery as well to replenish his shields, which will allow him to absorb a couple more extra hits from those Reavers than otherwise he will be able to. Now Jangbi circling around towards Bisu's natural expo again. Bisu excellent positioning by his dragoons at that shuttle, and the shuttle takes a couple of hits, and Jangbi again unable to do anything, and Bisu's build seems to be superior. He seems to have counted on the possibility of his opponent going straight for Reavers, and he seems to have defended, gone for a build that defends perfectly against it while giving him that economic advantage, and now Bisu's getting a Citadel of Avalon up as well. Jangbi only now getting that natural expo up and running, I would say a good 3 to 4 minutes potentially behind Bisu's, so he's going to be at a severe economic disadvantage versus the Protoss Assassin, and definitely I don't see Bisu as being the kind of player who would throw away this kind of advantage. Jangbi needed to inflict some damage. When you invest heavily in a build like that, when you invest in Reavers, you gotta make it count. You gotta make the opponent hurt, you gotta make them bleed, you cannot leave them on full health to come at you. and to grow and develop, and unfortunately Jiangmi was unable to. On the other hand, obviously if he'd gone in with his forces and gotten slaughtered, he would have been in an even worse position. So I guess in the end, considering how well Bisu defended and played, Jiangmi did the right decision to conserve his forces, because he's going to need every last one of them now as Bisu now comes out with the counter. His forces loaded up. He's still got enough forces left to defend his main, and he's just pushing up and putting pressure on Jiangmi. Jiangmi has got a couple of reavers. He did have that shuttle. I'm not sure where Jiangmi's shuttle has gone, but Bisu looks like now he's going to pull back. So he just pushed forward to that ridge of Jiangmi's, and it looked like he had taken that ridge, but Bisu deciding not to hold it. He doesn't also seem to have an observer with his main force. I don't know why. Templar Archives now complete almost for Bisu. But yeah, you would have to argue that even though we haven't actually seen any combat, apart from scouting probes being chased away between these two players, Bisu has cemented an early lead in this game, and I don't see him as being the kind of player who would sit back and allow Jiangmi to catch up to him in terms of his economy or to effect some sort of a big attack. Bisu, I feel, is going to keep the pressure up, is going to multitask, is going to drop and harass. We've seen Jiangmi do that well in the past as well against Bisu himself in a Pro League matchup where Jiangmi stormed Bisu all over the place a while back, and effected a brilliant victory against him, and he's going to need something similar here, something similar to what Bisu produced against Free in the previous game, if he's going to have any hope of coming back, because definitely he is behind. Bisu now just consolidating his position, looks like he's getting ready to potentially take that expansion, and Jiangmi with two shuttles, Jiangmi with dual shuttle drops, going for Bisu's base. I'm not sure if Bisu's seen this coming. Bisu's got all his forces, and it would take a long time for Bisu's Dragoons to get back, so Jiangmi might be able to deliver a killer blow here, and that's exactly what he's going to